Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar on revolutionizing medical coding with AI powered solution. My name is Praveen, marketing consultant at Codio. I will be your moderator for the day. Before we begin this webinar, I would like to inform the audience that everyone would be in listen only mode. So I would request you to please drop your questions in the chat box so that all of these questions would be answered at the end of the webinar. So I would pass on to Amar, our VP of Sales, to introduce Medicodio, and later Jessica, our subject matter expert, will be taking up the session. We also have got our CEO Umesh there. Hi Umesh. Hi
Hello.
Amar. Yeah. Hi Amar. You
Hi
can.
everyone.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. Myself Amardeep Adiga. I'm a VP Sales in Medicodio, and today we are going to talk about AI-powered medical coding platform. And along with me in the panel, as well as a presenter, Jessica Miller is there. She comes with 20 plus years of experience as an RCM profession, as well as healthcare. Sorry, medical coding industry. So I also wanted to introduce our founder and CEO, Mr. Umesh Vaidyamat. He's also a panelist, and hope you guys will gain some knowledge today with this particular session. So over to Jessica.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you, Umesh. Thank you, Praveen, for moderating this session. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm really excited to discuss how we're going to revolutionize medical coding with artificial intelligence powered solutions. As Mar mentioned, I am Jessica Miller. I am the subject matter expert here at Medicodio. I have been with the company since the start of the project in 2021. I do have experience as a revenue cycle professional, also a certified medical coder and instructor for the AAPC. I have worked in ambulatory surgery center development, revenue cycle billing and coding, and then also was a manager for a large team of multi-specialty coders for a large outsourced coding company. So I have worked in medical coding directly for providers, directly for facilities, and also kind of in that vendor position as an outsourced coder. So I have a little bit of experience in understanding the challenges we face as medical coders, but also from a business perspective, the needs of those revenue cycle management companies and facilities in terms of how to get and be efficient in their coding and billing practices. So the revenue cycle management process in healthcare refers to managing the entire process of a patient's account, either from the initial appointment or encounter to the final payment of any balance due. This encompasses all the administrative and clinical functions that contribute to the capture, management, and collection of patient service revenue. So the key stages in the healthcare revenue cycle are those pre-encounters where you maybe engage with that patient before they make their appointment. That encounter is going to be when they see your physician. Coding and billing, of course, is when we perform all the functions for creating the claim and charges. Claim submission is going to be where that claim goes through the clearinghouse to your payers and, of course, is processed. Payment posting is when we get that lovely remittance back from the payer for our services. Follow-up and denial is going to involve any of those processes where we need to follow up on a claim that was denied, or if maybe there's a delay in the payment, wanting to figure out the reason for that. And then, of course, patient collections finalizes that process after we receive the payment from the payer. If there's any balance due, we need to reach out to the patient and collect. Now, medical coding, as a very important function of the revenue cycle process, involves the transformation of healthcare diagnosis, procedures, medical services, and equipment into universal alphanumeric codes. These codes are used for various purposes, of course, like billing, insurance claims, data analysis, and even medical research. And they ensure standardized communication between healthcare providers, insurers, and other entities involved in healthcare. Now, coding, of course, involves the transformation of those diagnosis, procedures, services, and supply descriptions into the standardized codes accepted by those payers and commercial and government entities. The purpose of these codes are to accurately describe and document the services rendered to patients. Operative reports give us excellent details, but payers don't have time to interpret all that information and to arrive at what would be an appropriate reimbursement for that service. So, of course, we've categorized those into service codes, which are attached to reimbursements. And of course, assigning an accurate code is essential for proper billing, claim submission, and appropriate reimbursement. Having correct coding ensures that the services provided are properly documented and classified for their billing purposes, as well as any research purposes. Medical coders are responsible for assigning the appropriate codes based on the information provided in the patient's medical records. We're required to have a deep understanding of medical terminology, anatomy, and coding guidelines to accurately translate these records into the appropriate medical codes. Billing, as the counterpart to coding, refers to the process of creating and submitting claims to insurance companies or patients for the services provided. The goal is to receive reimbursement for the healthcare services rendered. And billing involves compiling that coded information, creating those claims, and submitting them to insurance companies or patients for payment. Medical billers will typically handle this process. They ensure claims are accurately prepared, they include all the necessary information, and have to comply with insurance requirements. They may also follow up on unpaid claims, address denials, and work with payers to resolve discrepancies. Also important to point out that a biller is going to work very closely with a coder in addressing any of those unpaid claims or denials, especially if they relate to a code error or inaccuracy in the code reporting. So key points to remember are that coding and billing work closely together in the revenue cycle, with accurate coding feeding into correct billing practices. Compliance with coding guidelines and accurate documentation is crucial to prevent claim delays or denials in reimbursement. And both coding and billing professionals are required to stay updated with changes in coding regulations, changes in code descriptions, insurance policies, and the healthcare laws that ensure accuracy and compliance, as well as security and protection of personal health information in our roles. Quickly want to review the medical code set since I mentioned them briefly. We do have the ICD-10-CM, which is the International Classification of Diseases. There's also the CPT, which is current procedural terminology. There are the HCPC code sets, which describe supplies. We have our modifiers, which modify the CPTs for certain instances or patient statuses, or maybe lateralities for anatomy. There's also the CDT, which is a current dental terminology code set. These are different from the procedural terminologies, of course, because they relate to all of the teeth and orthodontal processes. So ICD-10-CM, as I mentioned, is the International Classification of Diseases. It's used to classify and code diagnosis, symptoms, and medical conditions. These are organized hierarchically, primarily by grouping diseases and health conditions into chapters, sections, and codes. CPTs were developed by the American Medical Association, and they're used to describe medical, surgical, and diagnostic services. So an important distinction is that the ICD is going to describe the diagnosis or the condition of the patient, and the CPT is going to describe what happened or the procedure or surgical care that was given to the patient. Current procedural terminology is a system developed by the AMA to standardize the coding of medical procedures and services performed by healthcare professionals. Again, they're used for billing purposes, documenting medical procedures, facilitating communication between healthcare providers, and for research and analytic purposes. HCPCs stand for the Healthcare Common Procedure Coding System. This is a set of healthcare procedure codes used for Medicare and other health insurance programs that describe supplies, equipment, drugs, and services not covered by the AMA's Association's CPT codes. There are two levels in the HCPCs. Level 1 codes are identical to CPT codes and are used to identify medical services and procedures provided by healthcare professionals, such as physicians and therapists. Level 2 HCPC codes are alphanumeric and cover a broader range of healthcare services. This includes your durable medical equipment, prosthetics, orthotics, supplies, drugs, and ambulance services. Level 2 HCPCS codes are maintained by CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and are crucial for billing purposes since they provide a standardized way of describing items and services in healthcare claims, ensuring consistency and accuracy in reimbursement and reporting of these facility supplies across various healthcare settings. Now, modifiers are the two-digit codes appended to healthcare procedure or service codes, CPTs, or HCPCS to provide additional information about the service rendered. These modifiers alter or further describe the service without changing the core definition. They indicate that the service or procedure has been altered in some way, but doesn't change the fundamental meaning. They can have an impact on, again, the laterality or anatomy, the patient status or physical status, and then also they can append for different service locations. And then they play a crucial role in describing services rendered and ensuring proper reimbursement because they communicate specific circumstances or complexities associated with a service or procedure to assist in the accurate processing of healthcare claims. Now in healthcare, we've made a significant jump into incorporating all types of technology. This was first introduced with electronic health records. We saw progression into mobile telehealth computing. Physicians now are able to do their documentation on top of iPads. Nurses and physicians are traveling around. So really incorporating a lot of technology in its real core aspects. Now we're hearing a lot about artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation, and even automatic process interchanges. And so since I'm going to be using these terms a lot in this presentation, I just want to take a quick minute to review exactly their definitions and what they mean in terms of healthcare. So AI, of course, is artificial intelligence, and this is the theory and development of computer systems that are able to perform tasks that normally would require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and translation between languages. When we're looking for real-world examples, think about the face recognition in your smartphone. Alexa and Siri in speech recognition, they're now household names, and we ask all sorts of things of them. Decision-making and content creation, we've heard a lot about ChatGPT and its ability to generate content, even some medical content and documentation. And so we're seeing artificial intelligence applied in decision-making in the healthcare industry. But I think eventually we're also going to add task performance to this list. There's already so much going on in the field of robotic surgery, robotic servers, robotic ordering, but that's certainly for another presentation. Now, ML stands for machine learning, and this is the use and development of computer systems that are able to learn and adapt without following explicit instructions by using algorithms and statistical models to analyze and draw inferences from patterns in data. So this is the science that allows artificial intelligence technology to improve over time. And aside from its growing prominence in healthcare tech applications, machine learning is also familiar in our everyday lives in social media, banking and finance, and commute predictions when you think about applications like Google Maps and Wazi. Now, RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation, and this is a form of business process automation technology based on metaphorical software robots or artificial intelligence digital workers. These are often referred to as bots, and they work in the invisible space of computer data processing, but are able to perform remedial and learned tasks. You can think about automated customer call service centers and payroll processing when we're looking for everyday life examples. And then finally, API is our application programming interface, which is a set of defined rules that enable different applications to communicate with each other. This acts as that intermediary layer that processes data transfers between systems, which lets companies open their application data and functionality to external third-party developers, vendors, business partners, and then even internal departments within the company. Basically, it's the technology that allows data sharing between systems. You can think of things like Spotify, Netflix, even Twitter bots are some real-world examples. And so before I move into current technology that's available, let's take a quick look at why artificial intelligence has potential in medical coding. Coders in the organizations we work for are faced with a number of challenges. And of course, we don't solve all of the problems, but we do feel that artificial intelligence can address a number of these issues. And looking at current coding industry challenges, we're certainly all aware that there is a lack of talent. We don't have enough certified coders or coders that are under-certified for specialties where jobs are available. Job growth for medical records and health information technicians is projected to grow at least 13% by the next 2 years. So really a lot of potential there for us to fill in the gaps where certified coders aren't available. There's also a backlog of work. COVID created an increased demand for healthcare services, and we still have that tied to our workforce shortages, leading to a backlog of charts needing to be reviewed, coded, presented for payment. And then, of course, coders are aware that every October we're introduced to a new code set. We have only a few months to understand all of the changes, deletes, updates to those code sets, and then we have to implement those changes in January. So really, we're in charge of understanding each of those changes and implementing them within our organizations. And that might mean having conversations with physicians, having conversations with payers. Internally, coders are faced with a number of challenges too. Not coding to the highest level of specificity, maybe due to a number of factors, documentation issues, lack of complete data. This, of course, impacts our accounts receivable and the number of claims that are unpaid. Over and under coding, we've got routine application of codes based on rote memory or charge master super bill billing. Coders get into a routine, or physician providers, and just start to assume that the documentation they're providing is the same, and so the coding wouldn't change. But of course, guidelines change, descriptions change, and every patient doesn't receive the same level of care. Unbundling improper modifier usage. Of course, missing out on reimbursement due to improper usage. Maybe there's a misunderstanding in the coder guidelines of the modifier, or maybe the payer isn't clear in their instructions for use of it. And then, as I mentioned, the bad and inconsistent documentation. Really a lot of discussion about clinical documentation improvement and how we can use artificial intelligence to identify errors and discrepancies. And so in addressing this issue with artificial intelligence, a lot of EHR systems are already trying to provide automatic updates and code set maintenance. That requires them to keep up with code changes in their systems, either through a licensing agreement with software or the AMA. And often this cost is passed on to the customer or user. Next, looking at real-time analysis of documentation, there's a lot of computer-assisted coding programs. They provide resource tools to aid in code selection. They're great databases and storehouses of information related to coding guidelines, RVUs, etc. But they're really limited to the predetermined point-and-click user inputs, and they're only as good as their most recent update. So while this is considered real-time analysis of documentation, there's still a heavy dependence on human intelligence and analysis. And then finally, we can look towards supplementing the workforce with automated bots or digital workers, addressing that workforce shortage through those efficiency technologies, and looking more at assistive AI than generative AI for supplement with an automated workforce. So like most things, I like to joke, The Simpsons did it first. This is from the episode where Homer has to work from home and he employs Lisa's drinking bird as an automated stand-in. Of course, he only teaches it to perform one function, and so the end result is almost disaster. Ultimately, what we're trying to achieve with artificial intelligence and machine learning feedbacks is to avoid this type of automated learning where there's no additional instruction. And that takes me to my point about the importance of data. So when discussing artificial intelligence, it's vital that we talk about the importance of the data. Data empowers clinicians and other healthcare decision makers to better manage a variety of dynamic conditions and solve complex challenges. Artificial intelligence serves as an aid by providing relevant information, but is also very effective at looking at patterns among a lot of data. So an efficient healthcare system will not solely rely on humans to do what machines can do much quicker. But to improve the provision of medical care, artificial intelligence must be paired optimally with human intuition. So that means that large healthcare systems that might already have enough of their own data can partner with smaller systems, can partner with software techs, can partner with other AI solutions, and tap into their existing data testing. But of course, all that depends on the quality of the data. So artificial intelligence, particularly in the form of machine learning, learns patterns and makes predictions by analyzing large amounts of data. And the more diverse and high quality the data set, the better the AI model can learn and generalize from it. So in software speak, this is garbage out, garbage in, garbage in, garbage out, which is exactly as it says. The quality of the data you put in directly affects the quality of the output. So it's very important that healthcare systems review their relevant data sets to ensure the AI technology they're testing is compared against the best data set possible. Data is the training book for AI, and if the lesson guide gives the wrong answer, so will the artificial intelligence. And since AI algorithms detect patterns and relationships in data, and those patterns help them make predictions, classifications, and generate outputs based on new and unseen data, the AI needs sufficient data to recognize those patterns effectively. Now, a well-trained artificial intelligence model should be able to perform accurately on new and unseen data. And this ability to generalize comes from exposure to a wide variety of examples during training. And without that diverse data, the AI model might become too specialized and fail to perform well in real-world scenarios. Finally, artificial intelligence often requires data to identify relevant features that contribute to the task at hand. So for instance, in image recognition, features could be edges, corners, textures, etc. Having ample data helps the AI identify these features and which ones are important for making accurate predictions. Data is also important in helping to reduce biases in artificial intelligence systems. By training on comprehensive and diverse datasets, artificial intelligence models can learn to make fair and unbiased decisions, as the biases in the data can be balanced out. Artificial intelligence systems are also fine-tuned and improve over time by feeding them new data. So as technology advances and more data becomes available, artificial intelligence models can be updated to stay current and relevant. Now, this data might also restrict the artificial intelligence adaptation to change. Models that are trained on historical data are going to struggle to adapt to new situations. So it's important to have that recent data to enable the AI to better adapt to changing conditions and trends. And for complex tasks, artificial intelligence often requires a vast amount of data to learn the intricacies of the problem domain. This is going to be particularly true for tasks like natural language understanding, which is vital in interpreting the descriptions in an operative report or physician record. Exposure to a wide range of language patterns is essential. Data is also crucial for testing and evaluation of performance of the AI models. Without having data to train your model or test it against, it's challenging to determine whether the system is performing well or needs improvement. And then new insights and discoveries arise from analyzing large data sets. So artificial intelligence can help identify hidden patterns or correlations that humans might miss, leading to breakthroughs and innovation and discovery in various fields. Now, when considering artificial intelligence, whether this is for your coding processes or elsewhere in your practice, there's a couple things to consider in analyzing whether or not you're ready to adopt artificial intelligence. As I mentioned, that data set is very important. So do you have the data you need? Do you have enough of the data? Do you have enough support for the data to analyze and understand the processes you want to improve? This is going to be involving your internal IT, maybe your external EHR support, all of those key players who help make that decision on what processes are going to be incorporating artificial intelligence. Along with that, analyzing your current systems. Are you utilizing your software and your data to its maximum to ensure that you are getting that appropriate set for training of the artificial intelligence? Some organizations have super users, they know the ins and outs of those softwares, and some just use portions that they need to. So everyone needs to understand the impact their inputs have on a data set within the EHR system. Next, identify needs and gaps in that data where your artificial intelligence can support and streamline processes. What is it you're hoping to achieve, and what are those goals and processes going to impact? Is it claims, authorizations, coding? Next, analyze those options. Of course, we're available to do our own research online, trade shows. There's conferences that you can see these vendors in person, get demos. Reputable research sites like CLASS provide you with external reviews. Finally, after making your decision, you're going to implement. This could be, of course, the most time-intensive and team effort involved step. You're going to want to quality assess, test, and review all of the trainings that you perform for your artificial intelligence to make sure that it's meeting your goals. And then, of course, employing those internal and external supports, whether that's from the software vendor you're using or internally if you've developed your own platform or system. Let's talk quickly about some of the limitations. Artificial intelligence has numerous benefits in revenue cycle management, but there are some challenges that healthcare organizations need to consider. Again, that data quality and integration. And this is very important because your artificial intelligence relies heavily on that high quality data for accurate predictions and insights. A lack of standardization is a challenge in healthcare. The data comes in various forms and standards, and that makes it difficult for artificial intelligence systems to process and analyze information consistently. Interpretability and transparency. AI algorithms like deep learning and neural networks can be complex and difficult to interpret. So this lack of transparency leads to a resistance in adoption because healthcare is a sensitive area and decisions need to be explained and understood by human stakeholders. And that human insight is necessary because artificial intelligence systems might not handle every situation perfectly. Human oversight is required to validate AI-generated decisions, correct errors, and handle exceptions. This is especially true in medical coding and billing, where certain processes might change or need to be addressed in a manual fashion. Implementation and integration costs. Introducing artificial intelligence systems into existing processes requires investments in technology, infrastructure, training, and expertise. Initial costs might be prohibitive, but of course, as we see over time, as this technology develops, those price points eventually start to decline. Change management and staff resistance. When we're employing new technologies, of course, there might be a little bit of resistance in adopting these AI-driven tools due to concerns about job displacement, changes in workflow, or the need for new skills. So organizations adopting artificial intelligence need effective change management strategies to address and overcome those challenges. There are some ethical and privacy concerns. We are handling patient data and making decisions based on algorithms. And of course, we have to ensure compliance with regulations like HIPAA, and maintaining patient data security is crucial in our coding and billing functions. I did mention that algorithms can bring bias and fairness. So depending on the data set they're trained on, we want to try and make that as diverse as possible to avoid any inherent biases in the artificial intelligence model. Now, there may be some limited contextual understanding in artificial intelligence. There may be some nuanced context of patient interactions in complex medical situations. This is where artificial intelligence can be an excellent assistive technology, but where that human intervention is still going to be important. And then, of course, we know healthcare is a highly regulated industry. Artificial intelligence implementation has to align with those regulatory standards. We have to ensure that our AI systems comply with healthcare regulations, and sometimes those standards can be complex. All of this can lead to a challenging learning curve for that artificial intelligence, as well as healthcare professionals and staff needing time to understand how that artificial intelligence changes their workflow and processes. And then, of course, we're in an age of constant technological evolution. ChatGPT and the model we see it now today is not how it will exist 10 years from now. Medical coding assisted technologies as we see them today are not how they're going to exist 10 years from now. So, AI is rapidly evolving. Staying up to date with those is going to require best practice resources and an effort and investment. And then, of course, with technology, there may be unforeseen technical issues or challenges that arise during the deployment and usage of AI systems and revenue cycle. That's why it's really important to go through an implementation and integration process that involves a lot of quality assurance and checks and balances of the import and export processes. Coming to the meat of our presentation, I think it's pretty exciting that now in the medical coding industry, we're getting introduced to these types of assistive AI technologies. Our processes are so manually and heavily centered around reviewing documentation, finding documentation, assuring appropriate code resource selection, that it's going to be really a change of pace for our coders to understand how these tools are going to impact their workflows. And so a lot of EHR systems are already kind of catching on to that. They have some computer-assisted coding tools. Again, these are based on point and click functions. They're only as good as their most recent update. And of course, they don't apply any type of coding guidelines. So you're strictly getting, natural language processing, point and click for a code result to a description. And then, of course, we're also now having access to all types of online libraries. I know my back was getting pretty sore from carrying around 3 books of code details. So now we have access to web sources and a lot of code and research online tools. These are web-based programs. They run LCDs, NCCIs, verify RVUs, may provide endless amounts of code data, but depending on your access and through your organization, your access to some of those code sets may be limited by your subscription. And of course, depending on your financial situation, some of those subscriptions can be quite costly. So it really depends on what you're looking for in a solution and where your finances stand. But of course, the obvious next step in that progression was introducing artificial intelligence. This takes automated coding to the next level by introducing natural language processing for code prediction and employing that machine learning and human intervention feedback. So a lot of this coding automation is currently only in niche markets. Apologies. One moment. Sorry for that. The computer was plugged in, but the charge was not on. Alrighty. So as I mentioned, they work in niche markets and are operating in some of the offshore centers focused on really specific coding specialties and a point and click automation. What we attempted to do at Codio is introduce all of those new technologies, that artificial intelligence, that machine learning, the natural language processing, and robotic process automations to really increase the efficiency and accuracy in code selections for medical coders. So to kind of review here, where automated technology like Codio is being implemented are healthcare facilities. We're able to supplement your workforce and increase efficiency, reducing claim turnaround time through the employment of that assistive artificial intelligence. Revenue cycle management companies can adopt artificial intelligence solutions like ours to handle all of their coding needs, whether this is from a software perspective or an outsourced medical coding solution. And then medical coders are using platforms like Codio to supercharge their medical coding by automating their workflows and accelerating their code selection. And of course, we're exploring opportunities in providing this type of service to payers, as well as clinical documentation improvement functions. And our mission at Codio was to provide an innovative and effective code solution to medical coders in organizations and facilities and revenue cycle management companies that leverages artificial intelligence and machine learning to ease that coding process. Our system is able to minimize errors and speed up turnaround times through the suggestion of the CPT, ICD, HCPC, and medical code appropriate for the documentation. Our goal is to save coders valuable time and financial resources, reducing the need for extensive training and human turnaround, while maintaining the accuracy and quality in the medical coding. We're striving to transform the role of medical coders with our technology, enabling them to contribute more effectively to the organization's mission of providing excellent patient care. So what exactly that means as a team of experts, medical coders, and designers is that we wanted to implement that technology to give coders a leg up in their code selection. And so while we have built in an entire code library where you're able to get those NCCI edits, LCD verifications, includes and excludes notes related to code information, we're more than just a code reference tool because our artificial intelligence can read and analyze the patient chart and documentation to predict that most appropriate medical code. What that looks like in a coder's typical workflow is that our RPA or API integrations retrieve the patient chart through the EHR, whether that is the patient demographics, the E&M chart, the operative report, any assessment or documentation that's necessary to arrive at a code selection. Coding engine pulls this information in and begins to analyze those specific data fields for arriving at a CPT, ICD, HCPC, and modifier suggestion. At this point, our certified coder subject matter expertise intervenes in the system and finalizes those code selections. Again, we're not changing much in the process of how the coder arrives at code selection. We are changing their role in becoming more of the code and claim creator. So the engine analyzes the documentation and the certified coder reviews and selects the most appropriate codes based on their expertise and familiarity with the coding guidelines and requirements for that payer and claim type. Automatically transferred back to the billing system, either through RPA or API integration. So our bots will log into the HR and enter the claim charge data for the coder. And of course, we're improving, providing that machine learning. So our artificial intelligence engine improves over time, meaning that the suggestions provided by the engine will tailor off to the most appropriate selection based on the documentation. So over time, as we begin to gain familiarity, or as the engine gains familiarity with the document and physician-specific descriptions, the engine suggestions become more specific, and again, that coder user performs the functions of finalizing and building that claim information. Feature specific to our Codio platform is that we are EHR agnostic. We are able to interface regardless of the system, whether that's proprietary or external vendor. We have medical code prediction for all of the medical specialties and settings. We have purchased our sets through licensure, and so as long as it's a valid code from 2021 and onward, it's available in our system for analysis and prediction. Along with that, we have our CPT and ICD search functions, which allow you to get all of the necessary code data to arrive at an appropriate selection. We have automated the LCD and NCCI edit checks to reduce the amount of non-value added tasks the coders performing in their workflow. Detailed dashboards are also available for supervisors, so they can see productivity and utilization across client sites and healthcare settings. Also spend a lot of time on our UAT environment, wanting to make sure that our platform is easy for coders to use. They get to point and click to move through the processes, as well as automating, again, those non-value added tasks. Automated charge entry and API integration allows us to perform these functions in real time. So we can set up with our customers a schedule for pushing and pulling the data to ensure that there's no lag in the coding and billing process. And we provide our software in two solutions to help you streamline and optimize your coding processes. Our software as a service model puts the power of the platform in your coders' hands. They are able to utilize our software to finalize claim details. You integrate your workflows with your EHR billing system to suit specific payer contracts or clearinghouse system requirements. You cut coding turnaround time while increasing the accuracy of your codes and prevent downcoding through the suggestion from our artificial intelligence engine. And of course, you can automate and accelerate your workflows through the integrations of this technology because you have control of when your coders are operating within the software. Medical coding as a service is going to be a typical outsource end-to-end solution. Our coders employ the artificial intelligence technology internally, and the level of integration determines on manual charge capture processes. This allows you to scale effortlessly while reducing your operational costs, but your coder users do not have access to the software platform, so you will only get the output of the coding technology. Benefits of employing software like Codio. We are 100% HIPAA compliant. We do cover 100% of those medical coding specialties and have the complete code sets in our dictionary. We are 85% accurate in our algorithms out of the box with no training. Of course, we see those increase to 97 to 99% as we see that data and training data increase. And turnaround time for users of Codio is reduced by about 50%. Really what I like to say is you're actually able to maximize that time now. So coders that are doing 100 cases may be able to perform almost 150 to 200, given that they're now seeing an increase in their workflow efficiencies through the suggestion of the medical codes from the artificial intelligence engine. So to recap, we're bringing those efficiency and code accuracies through our MetaCodio application by saving time and tedious data entry with our RPA and API integrations. Coders are only needing to review the suggested codes and approve those coming from the artificial intelligence engine's analysis of the documentation. They don't have to learn the new EHR, EMR practice management systems. Our bot processes can be trained similar to your human employee, and they'll follow those processes until there's a need for a change. Also saving time and effort on code search tools and software licenses. All of the information is built directly into our platform. Coder users come into Metacodio, perform all of their coding and build functions, and then move about within the system. They can also perform all of the research that they need. Those LCDs and NCCI edit verifications are manually handled. So again, within our platform, they're able to perform all the functions they would normally have to navigate to additional websites to achieve. And of course, we see increased efficiency as Codio improves over time with our machine learning technology. And we have that faster report processing through the integration of our API and RPA technologies. Really appreciate everyone's attendance today. Thank you so much for your interest in Metacodio. And I believe now we're going to open it up to the floor. Happy to take any.
Yeah, Jessica, there are a few questions which I'm going to read it through. The first question goes like this: I'm still confused about AI. What kinds exist in healthcare?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question. So AI, as we mentioned, is artificial intelligence. There's assistive technologies like what you'll find in Metacodio, and there's generative and predictive technologies. There's a lot of debate about what is or isn't artificial intelligence, but really any of those functions that I described fall under that category. So natural language processing is a type of artificial intelligence. Machine learning falls under a category of artificial intelligence. But specifically to address your question, in healthcare, we're looking at that predictive, which takes information from radiology reports and tries to determine if a patient does or does not have cancer or abnormal results. Decision making helps physicians once they've come to that predictive technology in deciding that next term of action. So it's going to analyze large data sets for specific conditions and maybe provide a course of action or a possible course of action for the physician. At Metacodio, we're heavily based on assistive technology, and so we're employing that artificial intelligence to read and analyze the op reports and give assistance to the medical coder in arriving at a code selection. An excellent question.
Thank you, Jessica, for answering this question. We have another question. The question goes like this: how can AI improve coding process?
Oh, that's wonderful. So artificial intelligence has really made some leaps and bounds in medical coding. At first, when I started doing these talks, there was a lot of resistance because we saw that artificial intelligence as a replacement, and kind of leading off of that previous question, the technology that we're trying to develop is more for the assistance. And so artificial intelligence can help coders arrive at a code selection. It can help them perform their functions more efficiently by eliminating some of those non-value added tasks. We employ artificial intelligence Metacodio to run those NCCI edits. So the coder user employs their human intelligence, their knowledge base of understanding, but our machine can actually perform that function of navigating to the website, giving them the data that they need. So it helps them in an assistive way to analyze all of that information. And then they use their subject matter expertise to really arrive at that final code selection.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. We'll take up another question. The question goes like this: does Medicodio require usage of any specific EHR or clearinghouse?
No, and as I mentioned in the presentation, we are EHR agnostic. So if you're using a certain platform, we don't require you to for your existing system. We are kind of just the software that's going to incorporate into it or integrate into it. So depending on the EHR, we could explore options for API integrations, which allow for a much faster data change. Or, we can do standard robotic process automation and employ those bot technologies to perform the manual functions. But in terms of requiring specific EHRs, clearinghouses, No, we don't have any type of requirement for that. We are customizable in terms of our solutions. And along with that, we want to make sure that during those implementation phases, we're having lots of discussions with our customers and looking for ways that we could introduce more technology in bringing that efficiency in. So looking for, change in processes, a lot of things that companies and organizations can be resistant to because they've done things the same way for so long. But that is the beauty of introducing these artificial intelligence technologies, in that we can change those processes and look for ways to save time and money.
Thank you for that answer. There's another question. Are there other places in revenue cycle that AI is being used?
Yes, absolutely. Artificial intelligence is permeating all sectors of the revenue cycle, whether that's coming from patient billing, patient management, patient interactions, in terms of the front end side of it. So there's a lot of RPA processes for communicating with your patients, getting them in your scheduling system. A lot of those are those natural language processing and conversational bots. Um, they're different from the coding technology that we're employing at Metacodio, because we're analyzing that documentation and arriving at code suggestions. Um, there's also let's see, on the back end side, automating processes for denial management. We're looking at opportunities within Metacodio of how to improve clinical documentation improvement through analysis of all of that. So natural language processing, artificial intelligence in healthcare there as well.
Great. Um, Before we end the session, I have another question. The question goes like this: are there requirements for the amount of data needed to train AI?
That is an excellent question. And as I mentioned, the quality and amount of the data that you have for your training of your artificial intelligence processes is extremely important. Metacodio does not require a specific code set, but of course, we do see that the more data and larger sample size we can obtain from our potential customer, of course, the greater the outputs that will come from that training. So while we've not determined, a specific number of records that will be required, depending on what your goal is in terms of automation and accuracies, you're going to see fluctuations in that. A lot of the automated systems that are out there, of course, they're not 100% anyways. They're only doing about 70 to 80%, and those are based on a confidence level. And you can't achieve a certain confidence level if you don't have feedback interactions and loops. So at Metacodio, it's really important for us when we're uh, using artificial intelligence for our code suggestions, that we're having that subject matter expertise intervention. So while amounts of data are very important for training and understanding the objectives, having that subject matter expertise who intervenes to provide that machine learning is also very, very important.
Thank you so much for that detailed explanation, Jessica. We
Thank
have
you.
more questions coming in, but since we are running out of time, we would be answering rest of the questions offline on an email. So you guys can drop us all the questions that you have on our email address, and we would answer them offline for you. Thank you, Jessica, for this wonderful presentation, and thank you, audience, for joining this session and making it a grand success.
Yes, thank you. And this is our website, metacodio.com. Please feel free to visit us there. You can connect with me there as well. Lots of great information on our website. Our blog articles cover a lot of the questions that we had today about how artificial intelligence can improve your medical coding processes and the solutions that Metacodio has developed to assist you in those goals. So thank you again, everyone. Really appreciate speaking with you today and look forward to continuing our conversation.
Thank you.